She spent over 10 years in a wheelchair until a human fitted her with robotic legs. Terrence Shivers stood at the edge of the New Alexandria salvage yard, his leather jacket catching the orange glow of the setting binary suns. The cosmic junkyard stretched for miles, a graveyard of derelict starships and discarded technology from 100 different species. To most, it was garbage. To Terran, it was an endless source of possibilities. He ran a hand through his tousled, light brown hair, his stubbled jaw set in concentration as he studied the latest addition to his collection, a partially damaged quantum stabilizer. The device, no bigger than a bread box, could be worth a fortune if repaired, or it could explode and take half the yard with it. That was the thrill of working with alien tech. "Sir, you really shouldn't be here after hours," a melodic voice called out behind him. Terran turned, his practiced smile freezing as he caught sight of the speaker. A humanoid alien woman hovered at eye level in a sleek hover chair, her green skin almost luminescent in the fading light. Her violet hair cascaded past shoulders, left bare by a black corset-style top that made Terran's mouth go dry. "I could say the same to you," he replied, recovering his composure. "But then again, neither of us seems particularly concerned with should." The woman's lips curved into a smile. "I'm Naira Lavari, the yard's new inventory specialist, and you're Terrence Shivers, the human who keeps submitting ridiculously lowball bids on our most dangerous salvage." "Guilty as charged," he gave a theatrical bow, "though I prefer innovative procurement specialist. Is that what we're calling scrapyard scavengers these days?" Terran approached her hover chair, noting the advanced propulsion system with professional interest. "That's a Mark 7 gravitational compensator you're running. Must have cost a fortune." Nira's expression tightened. "Standard issue from the Galactic Health Authority." After the accident, she trailed off and squared her shoulders. "I've been in this chair for 11 years, 3 months and 17 days. Not that I'm counting." "The compensator's running hot," Terran said, circling the chair. "Mind if I take a look?" "By all means, add unauthorized maintenance to your list of violations." Despite her words, there was something in her voice. Hope, perhaps, or simple curiosity. Terran knelt beside the chair, pulling a multi-tool from his jacket pocket. The compensator's housing was warm to the touch. "The primary coil's misaligned," he muttered. "Easy fix if you've got steady hands and a complete disregard for safety protocols." "Which you clearly have in abundance." Terran grinned up at her. "Lady, you don't know the half of it." He worked in comfortable silence for several minutes, aware of Naira's curious gaze. The compensator's hum shifted from a stressed whine to a healthy purr. "There," he said, standing. "Should run smoother now, and your power consumption will drop by about 30%. Naira's eyes widened as she tested the chair's movement. It feels different, lighter somehow. Just a tune-up, though if you're interested." Terran hesitated, then plunged ahead. "I've been working on something, a prototype. Could be dangerous, probably illegal, definitely interesting." "Mr. Shivers, are you proposing something inappropriate?" "Always, but in this case, I'm talking about legs. Robotic ones, custom-built from salvage, but better than anything the GHA could provide." The playfulness vanished from Naira's face. "That's not funny. Not joking. I've got the plans back at my workshop. Would you like to see them?" Naira studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she said, "You're either brilliant or insane. Can I be both?" She laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "Lead the way, Mr. Innovative Procurement Specialist. Show me these illegal legs of yours." As they moved through the darkening salvage yard, Terran couldn't help but feel he was starting something far bigger than a simple mechanical project. The way Nira's eyes sparkled when she laughed, the sharp wit behind her words. He was already in trouble, and he knew it. But then again, trouble was his specialty. Terran's workshop was a converted cargo container at the edge of the salvage yard, illuminated by strips of plasma lighting that cast everything in a soft blue glow. Holographic diagrams floated in the air, showing complex mechanical schematics that would have made any legitimate engineer's head spin. Nira maneuvered her hover chair through the organized chaos, her violet hair shimmering under the ethereal lighting. "This is not what I expected," she admitted, examining a wall covered in technical drawings and prototype sketches. "Let me guess, you pictured a grimy chop shop with parts strewn everywhere." Terran grinned, clearing space on his workbench. I may work with junk, but I'm not a slob. Clearly not. Her eyes lingered on a particular diagram. Are those neural interface schematics? Good eye. Taryn pulled up the holographic design of the robotic legs. The biggest challenge isn't the mechanical components. It's creating a seamless connection between your nervous system and the prosthetics. Nira's expression grew distant. The GOHA doctors said neural integration was impossible for my species. Something about our synaptic patterns being too complex. They were working with a standard medical tech. Taryn expanded the hologram, highlighting specific components. I'm thinking outside the box, way outside. These quantum processors, salvaged from a crashed Arcturian research vessel, they can adapt to any neural pattern. And you just happen to find them? Let's say I have a nose for valuable salvage. He paused, studying her face. Want to tell me what happened? No pressure, but it might help with the customization. Nira's fingers traced patterns on her hover chair's armrest. It wasn't dramatic. No space battle or heroic sacrifice. Just corporate negligence. She took a deep breath. I was a junior engineer on a terraforming project. The atmospheric processors weren't properly shielded. When they malfunctioned, the gravitational backlash crushed your lower body, Taryn finished softly, along with 3 others. I was the only survivor. Her laugh was bitter. The company's lawyers argued that since we were using experimental technology, they weren't liable. The settlement barely covered my medical bills. Taryn's jaw tightened. Bastards! The universe isn't fair, Taron. I've made peace with that. Maybe. He moved closer, his voice low and intense. But that doesn't mean we can't try to balance the scales. Their eyes met and something electric passed between them. Nira broke the contact first, her green skin flushing a darker shade. So, she said, her voice slightly husky, tell me your story. How does a human end up running an illegal tech operation on a frontier world? Would you believe I used to be a corporate compliance officer? You, following rules? Nira laughed. Now I know you're lying. God's honest truth. Taryn leaned against his workbench. I was good at it too, until I started noticing patterns in the accident reports. The same corners being cut, the same executives walking away clean, while workers paid the price. What changed? I tried to do things the right way, filed reports, gathered evidence, got myself fired and blacklisted for my trouble. His smile was sharp. So I decided to help people my way instead. By breaking every regulation in the book, by fixing what's broken. He gestured to the workshop. Everything here, salvaged tech that corporations deemed too expensive to repair. Lives they decided weren't worth saving. Nira studied him thoughtfully. You're not what you seem, Taryn shivers. Neither are you, Nira Lavari. He stepped closer, close enough to catch the subtle floral scent of her skin. Most people in your situation would be bitter, angry at the universe, but you're still fighting, still hoping. And you think you can give me back what I lost? I think, Taryn reached out, his fingers brushing her hand. I think we might be exactly what each other needs. The touch sent sparks through both of them. Nira's breath caught, and Taryn felt his heart race. For a moment, the workshop seemed to fade away, leaving just the 2 of them in a bubble of blue light and possibility. I should go, Nira whispered, but didn't move. You should. Taryn's thumb traced circles on her palm. It's late, and this is probably a terrible idea. Definitely terrible. She smiled. When do we start? Tomorrow? I'll need to take some measurements, run some tests. I'll be here. Nira finally withdrew her hand, but her eyes held promises that made Taryn's blood sing. Try not to get arrested before then. No promises. He watched her maneuver toward the door. Nira, thank you for trusting me with your story. She paused in the doorway, silhouetted against the night sky. Thank you for listening. And Taryn, if these legs work, you'll have to tell me more about your rebellious past. Deal. After she left, Taryn stood in his workshop for a long time, mind racing with possibilities, both technical and personal. He had built countless devices, fixed seemingly impossible problems, but this felt different. This wasn't just about mechanical innovation or thumbing his nose at corporate regulations. This was about giving someone back their freedom and maybe, just maybe, finding something he didn't know he was missing. The restricted military wreckage zone loomed before Terran like a metallic graveyard under the twin moon's light. Twisted hulks of battle cruisers jutted from the desert sand, their once proud forms now serving as silent monuments to forgotten conflicts. "This is madness," Terran muttered, checking his scanner. The quantum processor he needed was in there somewhere, buried in the wreckage of an advanced warship. Without it, the neural interface for Nira's legs would never achieve the sensitivity she needed. The past weeks had been a whirlwind of progress and growing attraction. Every day Nira would visit his workshop, ostensibly to help with the leg project. Their hands would brush as they worked, conversations flowing from technical specifications to personal dreams. The air between them crackled with unspoken possibilities. Terran's wrist communicator buzzed. Nira's holographic image appeared, her violet hair gleaming even in the projection. "Tell me you're not actually in the restricted zone. Would you believe I'm just taking a midnight stroll?" "Terran?" Her tone carried equal parts concern and exasperation. "The security drones are on a predictable patrol pattern." He grinned at her image. "Besides, I had an excellent teacher in bypassing security systems." "Flattery won't save you from plasma burns." Despite her words, Nira's lips curved in a smile. "The quantum processor isn't worth your life." "You are," he said softly, then quickly added, "I mean, the project is. We're too close to give up now." The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken emotions. Finally, Nira said, "Be careful. I've grown rather fond of your reckless human charm." "So just my charm?" "Among other things." Her image flickered. "Security sweep incoming. Don't die out there, Terran. We have unfinished business to discuss." The hologram vanished, leaving Terran with a racing heart that had nothing to do with danger. "Focus," he told himself. "The processor first, feelings later." He moved through the wreckage like a shadow, years of salvage runs guiding his steps. The scanner led him to a massive cruiser, its hull split open like a broken egg. Inside, decades-old technology waited to be repurposed. The quantum processor was exactly where his intel suggested, nestled in the remains of the ship's navigation system. As Terran carefully extracted it, his mind wandered to earlier that day in the workshop. Nira had been helping him calibrate the neural receivers, her hover chair positioned close to his workbench. The proximity had been intoxicating. When she reached across him for a tool, her scent, like exotic flowers in starlight, had nearly overwhelmed his professional demeanor. "Your heart rate increases by 23% when I'm near," she had observed, scientific curiosity mixing with something more playful in her voice. "You can sense that?" "My species evolved as empaths. We can read biological signatures." Her fingers had traced the air near his chest. "Yours is fascinating." The memory of her touch, even through the air, sent shivers down his spine. The way she looked at him, like he was a puzzle she desperately wanted to solve. A security drone's whine snapped him back to reality. Terran cursed, ducking behind a twisted bulkhead. The drone's searchlight swept past his position, illuminating the wreckage in harsh white light. His communicator vibrated. A text message from Nira. "My quarters. When you're done playing hero, no excuses." Terran smiled despite the danger. He waited for the drone to pass, then began his careful extraction from the wreckage zone. The processor was secure in his pack, and anticipation burned in his veins. An hour later, he stood outside Nira's quarters in the residential section of the salvage yard. His heart pounded as he knocked, equal parts adrenaline from the mission and nervous energy about what awaited him. The door slid open. Nira's quarters were bathed in soft purple light that complemented her green skin perfectly. She had changed from her usual practical attire into something more distracting. "You're late," she said, but her eyes sparkled with relief and something more intense. "Had to take the scenic route, avoiding arrest and all that." He held up the processor. "Mission accomplished. My hero." The words carried no mockery, only warmth. "Though, I'm beginning to think you enjoy playing with fire. Only the right kind of fire." Terran stepped closer, drawn by an irresistible force. Nira's hover chair hummed as she moved to meet him. "We should talk about biological compatibility," she said, her voice husky. "My species has some interesting differences from humans." "I'm a quick study." Taryn set the processor aside, his full attention on the extraordinary woman before him. And I've always believed in hands-on learning. What followed was a night of discovery, where cultural differences melted away in the face of a more universal language. Their connection, built on trust and understanding, transformed into something deeper, more profound. Later, as they lay entwined, Naira traced patterns on Taryn's chest. "The neural interface will work now," she murmured. "With the processor, I mean." Taryn kissed her temple. "But that's tomorrow's project. Tonight was about something else entirely." "Indeed." She propped herself up to look at him. "You humans are remarkably adaptable." "We have our moments," he grinned. "Though I think you've got us beat in several interesting categories." The quantum processor hummed with potential as Taryn made the final adjustments to the neural interface. Weeks had passed since that first night together, and their relationship had blossomed into something neither of them had expected. The workshop, once merely a space for technical innovation, had become their sanctuary. "Ready for the initial sync?" Taryn asked, looking up from the robotic legs laid out on his workbench. The design was elegant, sleek chrome and matte black components that would extend from thigh to toe. Naira nodded, her violet hair cascading over her shoulders. She'd taken to wearing one of his spare shirts during their work sessions, the dark fabric contrasting beautifully with her green skin. "I've been ready for 11 years. Taryn connected the neural interface to the diagnostic pad on her lower back. The connection point had been surgically implanted a week ago, a procedure that had cost them both several sleepless nights of worry. "Remember," he said, his voice soft but firm, "this is just calibration. No actual movement yet." "Yes, doctor," Naira teased, but her fingers gripped the armrests of her hover chair tightly. The interface activated with a gentle pulse. Naira gasped, her eyes widening. "I can feel them," she whispered. They're there." Taryn watched the diagnostic readings scroll across his tablet. "Neural pathways are establishing. How's the sensation?" "Strange, like phantom limbs, but more real." She closed her eyes, concentrating. "The right one feels warmer than the left. That's the primary processor. It'll equalize once the system's fully integrated." Taryn made a minor adjustment, then froze as Naira let out a small moan. "You okay?" "More than okay." Her eyes opened, dark with meaning. "The sensitivity is impressive." Heat rushed to Taryn's face as he remembered their recent discoveries about each other's physiology. Their physical relationship had been a journey of exploration, each encounter teaching them new ways to bridge their biological differences. "Focus," he muttered, more to himself than her. "We need to complete the calibration before..." "Before what?" Naira's voice was pure temptation. "Before you get distracted by thoughts of last night? You're not playing fair." "When do I ever?" She leaned forward, her expression growing serious. "Taryn, there's something we need to discuss." The tone shift made him look up sharply. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong exactly. It's just..." Naira bit her lip, an endearingly human gesture she'd picked up from him. "My latest medical scan showed some unexpected results." Taryn's heart skipped. "The neural integration is perfect," she interrupted. "This is something else. Something that, according to all known xenobiology, should be impossible." Understanding dawned slowly, followed by a wave of dizzying emotions. "You're pregnant." Naira's hand moved to her abdomen, with what appears to be a viable human-Lavari hybrid. Taryn sat heavily on his stool, mind racing. "But the genetic differences are substantial, yes." The doctors are baffled. Apparently, human adaptability extends to cellular level. Her lips curved in a small smile. "And they want to write papers about us." "Let them," Taryn said automatically, still processing. "A baby, our baby. Are you okay with this?" The uncertainty in her voice snapped him out of his daze. Taryn stood, moving to take her hands in his. "Okay with it?" "Naira, this is incredible, impossible, perfect." Relief flooded her features. "The timing isn't ideal with the leg project." "The timing is exactly right." Taryn squeezed her hands. "Oh, by the time the baby arrives, you'll be walking." "Such confidence," she teased, but her eyes were bright with tears. "In us? Always." He kissed her softly, then returned to the workbench with renewed determination. Now let's finish this calibration. Our child deserves to see their mother dance. The next hour was focused work, interrupted only by occasional moments of shared wonder. The neural pathways strengthened, and Naira's control over the robotic components grew more precise. "Ready to try movement?" Taryn asked finally, after triple-checking all connections. Naira took a deep breath. "Ready." He activated the full system. The robotic legs hummed to life, responding to Naira's neural commands. Slowly, carefully, they bent at the knee, then straightened. "Holy shit," Naira breathed, watching them move. "They feel natural." That's the quantum processor adapting to your neural patterns. Taryn monitored the readings. "Want to try standing?" She nodded, determination setting her jaw. Taryn positioned himself beside her hover chair, ready to support her. With excruciating slowness, Naira shifted her weight onto the robotic legs. They held. "I'm standing," she whispered, clutching Taryn's shoulders. "After 11 years, I'm actually standing." Taryn wrapped an arm around her waist, steadying her. "How does it feel?" "Like coming home." Naira's eyes met his, filled with joy, and something deeper. Like everything's finally right. The morning sun cast long shadows through the workshop windows as Taryn adjusted the neural interface's sensitivity. 3 months had passed since their first successful test, and Naira's pregnancy was beginning to show. A slight swelling that somehow made her even more beautiful to his eyes. "The hormonal changes are affecting the neural pathways," Taryn muttered, studying the diagnostic readouts. "The interface needs to adapt faster than we anticipated." Naira stood nearby, one hand braced against the workbench, the other resting on her growing belly. The robotic legs responded smoothly to her movements, but there were occasional glitches, millisecond delays that could send her stumbling if not corrected. "My body's changing faster than the quantum processor can compensate," she observed, taking careful steps. "The weight distribution is different every day." Taryn nodded, making minute adjustments. "The processor's learning algorithm is impressive, but it wasn't designed for this kind of biological flux. We need to modify the base code." "You make it sound so clinical," Naira teased, walking toward him with deliberate grace. "When really you're just trying to keep up with your child's impact on my body." The words still sent a thrill through him. Their child, a medical miracle that defied xenobiological understanding. The pregnancy was progressing normally, though the doctors remained fascinated by how the human and Alvari genetics had combined so seamlessly. "Speaking of keeping up," Taryn said, catching her hand as she passed, "we need to discuss the business proposition." Naira's expression turned thoughtful. "The legitimate salvage operation license?" "It's time." He pulled her gently into his arms, mindful of her balance. "We can't raise a child on illegal salvage runs and midnight scavenging." "I rather enjoyed your midnight adventures," she purred, pressing closer, "especially the results." "Focus, woman." But he smiled, unable to resist kissing her forehead. "I've found a warehouse on the commercial side of the yard. With my technical knowledge and your inventory experience, we could build something real." "Something legal, you mean?" Naira's fingers traced patterns on his chest, a habit that never failed to distract him. "What happened to my rebellious human?" "He fell in love with an amazing woman and created an impossible child." Taryn captured her wandering hand. "Now he wants to build a future worthy of them both." Naira's expression softened. "You already have. These legs..." She demonstrated with a small spin that would have been impossible months ago. "You gave me back my freedom, Taryn. More than that, you showed me that limitations are just challenges waiting to be overcome. And you showed me that some rules are worth following." He grinned. "Some." A warning light flashed on the diagnostic panel, interrupting their moment. Naira stumbled slightly, the neural interface flickering. "Damn," Taryn muttered, helping her to a seat. "The hormone surge is stronger today. Give me a minute to recalibrate." "It's fascinating, really," Naira mused, watching him work. "Our child is literally changing my neural patterns. The doctors say it's because of the hybrid genetics. My body is adapting to accommodate human DNA." "Humans are notorious for forcing adaptation," Taryn said, adjusting the quantum processor settings. "It's kind of our thing." "Indeed," Naira's voice turned husky. "I've certainly enjoyed adapting to your particular traits." Taryn nearly dropped his tools. "You're impossible. I'm pregnant. My hormones are perfectly justified in their demands." She stretched languorously. Besides, the doctor said physical intimacy helps stabilize the neural patterns. Did they now? Taryn raised an eyebrow. And this has nothing to do with your species' legendary appetite during pregnancy? Pure medical necessity, Neera insisted, her eyes sparkling. For the sake of the neural interface, of course. Of course. Taryn finished the calibration and helped her stand. Better? Neera took a few experimental steps, then executed a perfect twirl. Much, though I might need some additional stabilization later. Minx, but his voice was fond. Let's focus on the business plan first. I've drawn up some preliminary designs for the warehouse conversion. They spent the next hour reviewing plans and possibilities. Their professional discussion frequently derailed by playful touches and meaningful glances. The future they were building felt solid, real, a legitimate business, a proper home for their child, a life where they could be proud of their achievements. We'll need to register the business this week, Taryn said, pulling up the necessary forms on his tablet. Get everything in order before the baby arrives. 5 months, Neera murmured, her hand moving to her abdomen. It doesn't seem possible. Says the woman walking on quantum-processed robotic legs while carrying a hybrid child. Taryn wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his hands over hers. I'd say we specialize in the impossible. The warehouse transformation exceeded even Taryn's optimistic expectations. The former storage facility now housed state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment, salvage processing stations, and a research lab that would make legitimate institutions envious. Most importantly, it was all completely legal. The licensing board actually complimented our neural interface designs, Taryn announced, walking through the newly renovated space with Neera. They're calling it a breakthrough in adaptive prosthetics. Neera, now 6 months pregnant, moved with remarkable grace on her robotic legs. The latest adjustments to the quantum processor had created an unprecedented level of integration. Her pregnancy-induced neural changes were actually improving the system's responsiveness. We should thank our little one, she said, patting her pronounced belly. Without these hormonal fluctuations, we might never have discovered the adaptive algorithms. Leave it to our child to revolutionize medical technology before even being born. Taryn wrapped an arm around her waist, marveling at how their bodies fit together, despite her changing form. The patent office is already processing our application. My brilliant human, Neera purred, turning in his embrace. Who would have thought your illegal tinkering would lead to legitimate innovation? Speaking of innovation, Taryn guided her to the private research lab. I have something to show you. The lab was their sanctuary, filled with projects in various stages of development. But today, a new addition dominated the space. A birthing chair, specially modified with neural interface compatibility. Taryn, Neera's voice caught as she recognized the implications. The doctors said traditional birthing positions might interfere with the leg interface, he explained, suddenly nervous. So I designed this. It'll maintain neural connection throughout labor while providing optimal support for both lavery and human birth requirements. Tears welled in Neera's eyes, a very human response she'd developed during pregnancy. You thought of everything? I had help. Taryn activated the chair's diagnostic display. Your medical team provided the specifications, but the neural integration? He grinned. That's pure us. Neera ran her hands over the chair's controls, her technical expertise evident in her assessment. The quantum processor's adaptive algorithms will help manage pain responses and maintain leg function. You'll have full mobility throughout the process. Taryn watched her face carefully. I know how important that is to you. Freedom of movement during childbirth is sacred in Levari culture, she murmured. I never thought that you'd have that option. Taryn pulled her close. Love, you're carrying our impossible child, walking on quantum-processed legs, running a legitimate salvage operation that's revolutionizing prosthetic technology. I'd say we're specialists in making the impossible happen. Neera's response was passionate and immediate, her enhanced neural sensitivity making every touch electric. The private lab had certain advantages over the workshop, not least of which was actual privacy. Later, curled together on the lab's comfortable couch. Another essential addition, Neera traced the plans for their expanding business empire. The medical patents alone will fund the operation for years, she observed, though I hope you're not planning to give up salvage runs entirely. Never, Taryn kissed her shoulder. But they'll be properly documented, fully insured salvage runs. With a team, safety protocols, the works. How disappointingly responsible of you. Blame fatherhood. His hand splayed protectively over her belly. Though I'm keeping my midnight scavenging skills sharp. Never know when they might come in handy. A gentle kick beneath his palm emphasized the point, making them both laugh. Their child seemed to have inherited both species energy levels, a fact that promised interesting times ahead. The neural interface is recording some fascinating data, Naira said, pulling up readings on her tablet. The pregnancy is actually optimizing the quantum processor's learning algorithms. It's like the system is evolving with us. Taryn studied the complex patterns. The adaptive responses are unprecedented. We're not just breaking new ground in prosthetics, we're rewriting the rules of human-machine integration. And human-alien integration, Naira added with a meaningful smile. The doctors are still baffled by how seamlessly our genetics combine. Humans are adaptable, Taryn reminded her, his voice deepening, in all the best ways. Yes, Naira shifted against him suggestively. Though I think we need more data points to confirm that theory. Scientific rigor is important, Taryn agreed solemnly, though his heart rate was already accelerating. We should probably run multiple tests. A chime from the main lab interrupted their research. The licensing board's final approval had arrived, along with their first official contract, a military medical division interested in their adaptive prosthetic technology. They want exclusive rights, Naira noted, scanning the document. They can want. Taryn's tone was firm. But this technology needs to be available to everyone. No more corporate gatekeeping. Naira's expression softened. My rebellious human hasn't completely reformed then. Reformed enough to build something legitimate? He helped her up, admiring how smoothly the robotic legs responded. But never enough to forget why we started this. Every person deserves a chance at freedom, at connection, at love. At family, Naira added softly, guiding his hand to where their child kicked energetically. The 8th month of Naira's pregnancy brought changes that even their adaptive technology struggled to keep pace with. The neural interface readings had become increasingly complex, showing patterns that defied conventional understanding. The baby's generating its own bioelectric field, Taryn muttered, studying the holographic display in their private lab. It's interfering with the leg interface, but not in a negative way. If anything, it's enhancing it. Naira walked the length of the lab, her movements more fluid than ever despite her advanced pregnancy. The quantum processor is integrating the baby's field into its algorithms. Our child is literally helping me walk better. A hybrid baby with engineering instincts definitely takes after both parents. Taryn grinned, but his expression turned serious as another alert flashed across his screen. We've got company, military medical division representatives. They're early. Very early. Naira checked her reflection, adjusting her specially designed maternity wear. The meeting wasn't scheduled until next week. They're probably hoping to catch us off guard. Taryn pulled on his leather jacket, a habit that always made Naira smile, her rugged human trying to look professional while maintaining his rebel edge. The military representatives were waiting in the main reception area, 3 stern-faced men in crisp uniforms. Their eyes widened slightly at the sight of Naira's obvious pregnancy, then widened further as they noticed her perfectly coordinated movements. Mr. Shivers, Ms. Lavery, the lead officer, Colonel Brighton, stepped forward. We apologize for the unexpected visit, but recent developments necessitated immediate discussion. Developments? Taryn positioned himself slightly in front of Naira, a protective stance that made her heart flutter. Your latest patent applications? Brighton activated a holographic display. The adaptive neural interface technology you've developed? It's far beyond anything we anticipated, and now we're receiving reports about unprecedented integration with hybrid genetics. Naira felt their child shift restlessly, the bioelectric field causing minor fluctuations in her leg interface. She adjusted smoothly, using the enhanced sensitivity to maintain perfect balance. Our innovations are completely legitimate, Colonel. That's precisely what concerns us. Brighton's expression was unreadable. The military has certain interests in human-alien hybrid research. Your child could be... Our child, Taryn interrupted, his voice carrying that dangerous edge Naira loved, is not a research subject. Of course not, Brighton backpedaled smoothly. But surely you understand the potential implications? a naturally conceived hybrid showing unprecedented neural compatibility with advanced technology. It opens possibilities we never imagined. The possibilities, Naira said firmly, moving to stand beside Terran, will be explored through proper channels with full transparency and ethical oversight. We could offer significant funding, another officer interjected. Private research facilities, top medical care, we have everything we need. Terran's hand found Naira's, their fingers intertwining. Our technology will remain available to everyone who needs it, not locked away in military labs. The tension in the room was palpable until Brighton finally nodded. We understand, but please consider this. Whatever you've created here, the technology, the hybrid genetics, others will be interested. Not all of them will ask nicely. After the military representatives left, Naira sank into Terran's embrace, their child's bioelectric field creating pleasant tingles where their bodies met. They're right about one thing, she murmured. What we've achieved here, it's unprecedented. They're right about the other thing too. Terran kissed her temple. We'll need to be careful, increase security. My protective human. Naira turned in his arms, pressing close despite her rounded belly. Always planning for every contingency. Someone has to balance out your reckless optimism. But his hands wandered appreciatively over her curves, the neural interface heightening every sensation. Reckless? Naira's fingers traced his jawline. I prefer adventurous. After all, I'm the one who took a chance on a scrapyard rebel with impossible dreams. Best chance you ever took. Terran's voice deepened as Naira's touch grew more purposeful. Though maybe we should continue this discussion somewhere more private. Later in their quarters above the lab, Naira monitored the latest neural readings while Terran drafted security upgrades. Their child's bioelectric field had created fascinating new patterns during their intimate moment. Patterns that suggested unprecedented levels of neural integration. The military's interest isn't just about the hybrid genetics, Naira realized, the neural interface adaptations. They could revolutionize more than just prosthetics. Human-machine integration on a whole new level? Terran looked up from his plans. But that's not what we built this for. We wanted to help people walk, to give them back their freedom. And we will. Naira stood, walking to him with a fluid grace that still amazed her. But maybe we're meant to do more, to show that differences, human and alien, organic and mechanical, aren't barriers. They're opportunities. Terran pulled her onto his lap, mindful of her belly. When did you get so philosophical? Probably around the time a stubborn human taught me to walk again. She kissed him softly. And showed me that impossible just means no one's been stubborn enough to make it possible yet. The birthing suite hummed with the gentle pulse of advanced technology, a symphony of human ingenuity and alien sophistication. Terran had transformed their private lab into a sanctuary where medical science met personal comfort. Every detail carefully planned for this moment. The neural interface is holding steady, Terran announced, monitoring the complex array of displays. Baby's bioelectric field is actually stabilizing the quantum processors. Naira stood beside the specialized birthing chair, her robotic legs responding perfectly despite the intense situation. Our son knows what he's doing, she breathed through a contraction, already taking after his father's technical brilliance. The medical team, a carefully selected mix of human and Lavari specialists, moved with practiced efficiency, amazed by how their patient remained standing and mobile even in active labor. The adaptive neural interface had revolutionized their understanding of what was possible. The security grid is active, Terran reported, his free hand never leaving Naira's. Perimeter drones are running silent protocols. No one's getting near this facility without our permission. After the military's interest, they'd implemented cutting-edge security measures, integrating the same quantum processing technology that powered Naira's legs. Their innovations would change the world, but on their terms, starting with this birth. Terran, Naira's voice carried that tone that always made his heart race, even now. Dance with me. What? He blinked at her. Love, you're in labor. And I'm standing on legs you built me, about to deliver our impossible child. She pulled him closer. Dance with me while we wait. Show everyone what human ingenuity and Lavari grace can create. Unable to resist her, Terran guided her in a slow, intimate dance. The medical team watched in amazement as the neural interface adapted perfectly to their movements, the quantum processors harmonizing with their child's strengthening bioelectric field. "Remember our first dance?" Naira murmured against his neck. "When you finally got the leg calibration right? You said it felt like flying." Taryn supported her through another contraction, then proceeded to prove it by leading me in that zero-gravity waltz in the workshop. "You turned such an interesting shade of green, matching your natural color scheme." Their laughter was interrupted by a more intense contraction. The medical team moved in as Nira finally settled into the birthing chair, its neural interface synchronizing seamlessly with her leg's processors. What followed was a birth unlike any recorded in human or Lavari medical history. Their son entered the world bathed in the gentle glow of quantum-processed light, his first cry accompanied by a surge in the bioelectric field that made every piece of technology in the room resonate in harmony. "He's perfect," Taryn whispered, cradling their child. The boy's skin held a subtle green tint that shifted in the light, while his fine hair showed hints of both violet and Taryn's light brown. But it was his eyes that captured everyone's attention. They seemed to hold galaxies. "Nixian," Nira said softly, reaching for their son. "His name is Nixian, after the Elvari word for bridge between star," Taryn recalled. "Perfect." Hours later, with the medical team gone and security protocols running smoothly, the new family settled into their private quarters. Naira walked the room with natural grace, Nixian cradled against her chest, while Taryn made final adjustments to the quantum field stabilizers. "The adaptive algorithms have evolved again," he noted, studying the readings. "The neural interface is integrating Nixian's bioelectric signature into its base code. It's like he's becoming part of the system that helps you walk." "Of course he is." Nira smiled down at their sleeping son. "He's part of both of us, human determination and Lavari adaptability, the best of both worlds." Taryn moved to embrace them both, marveling at how perfectly they fit together. "The medical patents are secure," he murmured. "Production facilities are being built. Soon anyone who needs this technology will have access to it. While the military and corporate interests remain safely managed through our network of carefully chosen partners," Nira added, "our innovations protected, but not restricted." Speaking of innovations, Taryn's hands wandered appreciatively over her curves. The neural interface's sensitivity levels are still remarkably responsive. Nira's eyes sparkled with familiar mischief. "Perhaps we should conduct some thorough testing once Nixian settled? Purely for scientific purposes, of course." "Of course." They stood together, watching their son sleep, living proof that boundaries were meant to be crossed, that limitations were just challenges waiting for someone stubborn enough to overcome them. The neural interface hummed softly, a testament to human ingenuity and the power of love to transform the impossible into reality. "Thank you," Naira whispered, "for seeing past my wheelchair that first day, for believing I could walk again." "Thank you," Taryn replied, "for showing me that the best salvage isn't found in junkyards. It's found in the connections we make, the boundaries we break, and the love we build together." Outside their window, the twin suns set on the salvage yard where their story began, casting long shadows across the piles of discarded technology that still held endless possibilities. But the real treasure was here, in this room, a family forged from determination, innovation, and the unshakable belief that love knows no limitations. Nixian stirred, his tiny hand grasping Taryn's finger with surprising strength. In that grip, they felt the future, a future where human and alien, organic and mechanical, all worked in harmony, a future they had built step by determined step, from the moment a scrapyard rebel decided to help a beautiful alien walk again.